Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be studying about types of animals for level C for the 6th graders. So we're going to start with the classification of animals. We are going to divide these animals into two types as warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals. We can divide warm-blooded animals into three sections which are called mammals, birds, and fish. If you want to exemplify these, bears, tigers, and whales are called mammals. Parrots, ostrich, penguins are called birds. Sharks, catfish, and butterfly fish are some kind of fish that we know about. Now, if we want to go on with the cold-blooded animals, we can divide them into two parts, reptiles and amphibians. There are some examples for reptile animals, which are crocodiles, turtles, and snakes. And for amphibians, we can say frogs, toads, or salamander, as you can guess. Now, we're going to study these animals deeply for now. We're going to start with mammals. To differ them from the other animals, we can say that they have hair or fur. So what's fur? Fur is soft, hairy skin of a mammal. Now, the second feature that we can divide them from other animals is that mammals give birth and nurse their young with milk. What's nursing? We all know that it's an occupation, but also nurse means to feed their kids or child with milk. Now, the third feature of mammals is that mammals have lungs and they need air to breathe. Here you can see a lung of an animal, just like we humans do. Organs that mammals have to breathe, lungs. People have lungs too, and also mammals have lungs. The fourth feature is that mammals have four legs or limbs and ears that stick out. So, what's a limb? Limb is a part of an animal, of a body, a leg, an arm, or a wing. So, as you can see, mammals have four legs and ears here that stick out. They're turning outside to hear more and better. The fifth feature is that mammals are warm-blooded animals. What's a warm-blooded animal? Body temperature stays the same when it's cold or hot outside. For example, we can say that a mammal's temperature of body is 20 degrees. It doesn't change, depends on the weather, whether it's cold or hot. Also, mammals give birth to live young. They are viviparous. What's a viviparous animal? Viviparous animal gives birth like humans rather than eggs. See, they have their kids growing up in their tummies. Now, the second section that we're going to talk about is birds, second kind of animals. Now, birds are warm-blooded animals. As you can imagine, it was just like mammals. Mammals are warm-blooded too. Their body temperature doesn't change, depends on the weather. Second one, birds breathe with their lungs. As you can remember, mammals also breathe with their lungs. Here is an example of their lung. Now, third feature, birds lay eggs, so they are oviparous. Mammals are viviparous, if you remember. They give birth, but when you see viviparous name, you can see that birds lay eggs. And birds have feathers, just like you can see. These are called feathers. Mammals have hair or fur, which is different than birds. Fifth feature of birds, a bird has a beak, as you can see. Sometimes it can be colorful, just like this one. What's a beak? Mouth part of a bird. This is called a beak. Birds have 2 wings and 2 feet. But if you remember, mammals have 4 feet. Here are 2 feet of a bird, and here are the wings, as you can imagine. This enables a bird to fly. Now, most birds can fly, but some of them can't fly. For example, penguins can't fly, even if they have wings. An ostrich is a different kind of animal which can't fly too. Eighth one, birds have ear holes instead of ears. So you may have thinking about it. How would they hear? They would hear from their ear holes right beside their heads. Mammals have ears that stick out. Fish, the third kind. Fish breathe underwater with their gills, not lungs. Here are an example. If you remember, mammals and birds breathe with their lungs, like human beings. But when you think about fish, they breathe with their gills. Fish live in water. While mammals live on land and water, birds live on land. Now fish. Fish have scales and fins from their skin. But if you remember mammals have hair or fur, and birds have colorful feathers. Depends on their kind. But fish have scales just like this here. And also they have fins that enables them to swim better. 4. Fish are cold-blooded animals. If you remember being a warm-blooded, which means that their body temperature doesn't depend on the weather outside, cold-blooded animals' body temperature depends on outside. So their body temperature can change according to the weather. But mammals and birds are warm-blooded. So fish, fifth feature. Fish lay many eggs, so they are oviparous. If you remember, mammals are viviparous animals. They're carrying their kids in their tummies. But fish and birds are oviparous, which are laying eggs to give birth to their youngsters. Now the next one is called reptiles, which is our fourth kind. Reptiles have scales on their skin. If you remember, mammals have hair or fur, birds have feathers, but fish have scales like reptiles. So in this kind, reptiles and fish are almost the same because they have both carrying their scales on their body. Reptiles have dry skin. Dry means being without water, while wet or moist means being with water. So the reptile have dry skin. But fish have wet skin or moist skin, as you can imagine. Now the third feature for reptiles. Reptiles lay eggs, so they are oviparous. If you remember, mammals were giving birth, birds were laying eggs, fish are laying eggs, and reptiles are laying eggs too. Mammals here is the different kind, if you compare all these four. Fourth one, reptiles are cold-blooded. If you remember, fish were cold-blooded too, while mammals and birds are warm-blooded animals. So, reptiles' body temperature changes according to their weather conditions. Now, fifth feature of reptiles. Reptiles breathe through their lungs, so they have their lungs in their body. Just like mammals, just like birds. But which one is different? Fish is different because fish breathe through their gills. Most reptiles live on land, but some live in water. There are 4 groups: crocodiles, lizards, snakes, and turtles, which you mostly know. Now the last one that we're going to talk about is called amphibians. What's an amphibian? Amphibian is a kind of animal that lives both on land and in water. So if you remember, mammals live on land and water too, which is similar to the way amphibians live. Also, fish live in water, birds live on land. But when you think about reptiles, reptiles are just like amphibians. They live on land and water. Second feature of amphibians. Amphibians have webbed feet. What's a webbed feet? Here, just like the web that spiders build, they have webbed feet, which enables them to swim better in the water. Here, let me draw you a bit more. Almost the last part. Amphibians are cold-blooded animals. Reptiles and fish are cold-blooded as well, but the different kinds are birds and mammals, which are warm-blooded animals. Amphibians have moist, smooth skin. If you remember, what's moist? Moist is similar to our adjective wet. Reptile skin is dry, but amphibian skin is moist, smooth, which means that they are wet. Fifth feature, amphibians lay many eggs. They are oviparous. If you remember, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians lay eggs. So the different kind is mammals because they are giving birth. Amphibians breathe through their lungs. Here you can see a lung of an amphibian, which is a frog. Mammals, birds, reptiles breathe through their lungs, but fish breathe through their gills, as you can remember. Now we've got a few questions to ask. They are warm-blooded animals. They have fur on their bodies mostly. They produce milk for their babies. If you remember, the kind that having fur, the kind that produce milk for their babies are called mammals. Now the second one. They are cold-blooded animals. They live in hard parts of the world. They don't produce milks. They lay eggs. If you remember the skin of an amphibian, you can say that they're living hot parts of the world because their skin is always wet or moist, smooth, you can say. Third question. They lay eggs too. They live in sea, in ocean, in river or lakes. If the question is talking about many kind of water parts in the world, you can confidently say that it's a fish. Now, the fourth question. They lay eggs. They have got feathers on their bodies. They can fly, but some of them can't fly. If they're talking about a future that's about flying, we can easily guess that they are birds. Of course, the question might say some of them are good swimmers. Yeah, of course you can call that fish, but fish can't fly, so the answer is perfectly birds. They live in fresh water or in land, so they can live in both sides. But they don't live at the sea. They lay eggs too, which we can call the reptiles, because they don't live in the sea. They don't like salty water. Only the thing that they want is fish, fresh water, so we call them reptiles. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, be good.